Hey, how y'all doing? This is Mongo Slade, and today we're going to talk about the Alexa Bliss, Randy Orton, and the Fiend. And what is the Fiend's weakness? All right, first hit the like button for me. I would really appreciate that. More people need to hit the like button. Also, hit subscribe. More people need to hit that subscribe button. Thank you. So we opened Raw with the Moment of Bliss segment between Randy Orton and Alexa Bliss. And basically what it boiled down to is Randy Orton is saying, hey, the Fiend hears voices in his head. I hear voices in my head. But the voices that the Fiend hears in his head are mine. And basically that he's in the Fiend's mind. The Fiend knows that he knows Bray Wyatt's weaknesses. And he figured out Bray Wyatt's weaknesses before when he burned down the cabin, which was, as we discussed previously in previous videos, is Bray Wyatt's sacred space, which is, if you are a magician, if you have a magician archetype, sacred spaces, different things like that, that it's your seat of power, like burning down a king's castle. So, but now he needs to figure out what's the Fiend's weakness, and he feels like he knows what the Fiend's weakness is, and he believes that the Fiend's weakness is Alexa Bliss. So, when the Fiend is about to attack him, he scoops up Alexa Bliss and he's holding her, and the Fiend is vulnerable. Almost, where he's like reaching out for Alexa Bliss and he's like, oh, kind of, like give her back. And Randy, hands over Alexa Bliss and then immediately darts out from the ring. And Randy's like, yeah, I figured it out. She's your weakness. Alexa Bliss is your weakness. No, that's not the case at all. They have Randy fooled. They're going to kill Randy. That's kind of how this whole thing is going, man. They would not make it that obvious. They tried this whole Alexa Bliss is your weakness thing. They tried that with Braun Strowman, right? Where Braun Strowman was supposed to be, this big hulking monster, but he always had a soft spot for Alexa Bliss because they had teamed up in the what was that Facebook thing, Mixed Match Challenge, and they were best friends. And, it was Alexa Bliss that helped him, become a good guy and different things like that. That actually made sense here. Now, in this situation, Alexa Bliss can't be the Fiend's weakness because the Fiend is pure evil. So he has no weaknesses. It would have made sense if Randy would have thought it was the Funhouse. Now, because the Funhouse is similar to the cabin, where the Funhouse is the new sacred space. To give people who have not been following previous videos, what am I talking about when I'm talking about sacred spaces? There's this concept. It's called the Axis Mundi, or the center of the world. And in the center of the world is where all the great things happen. It's the sacred area. Everything around it is mundane, but the sacred space is the revealed area. Think of a church, where you have the church is a sacred space. And then around it is everything. It's like sin around the church, even in the parking lot. But the church itself is a holy place. And people, if you look at the magician energy, or the magician style characters, they are stronger in their holy place. So if you look at the Bray Wyatt character, if he's a magician, he's sort of a character in that vein. He is stronger in his holy place. This is where you get the Firefly Funhouse match, where he was able to twist John Cena into a pretzel and defeat him with little to no effort, because John Cena was idiot enough to walk into the sacred space of the Fiend and thinking he's just going to punch and kick this guy to death, and he ended up in a psychological breakdown of his entire life. We can go through that stuff. I'll just post the videos in the description. So it would have made sense for Randy to go that route, to think that the sacred space of Bray Wyatt is the Funhouse, so he's going to burn down the Funhouse. Like, that would have been badass. Okay, and maybe we'll get there in the future. But right now, Randy is thinking very level one, that another person is the weakness of the Fiend, which is absolute stupidity. Like, it's like one of the silliest things in the world. It's like thinking that not Jason Voorhees, but Michael Myers, like thinking his sister is his weakness. It's like, no, like Michael Myers' sister is not his weakness. That doesn't make sense. So, but there are weaknesses to the Fiend. You know, there has to be. It has to be some way of him being defeated. Well, ultimately defeated, not just getting pinned like, Bill Goldberg. Because he'd be like, spears are his weakness. Jackhammers are his weakness. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a legitimate way of breaking the character down. In that respect, when you think about what the weaknesses of the Fiend would be, it would have to be Bray Wyatt is the Fiend's weakness because that's his physical form, that's his real form. But it will also have to be in some way an attachment to the Funhouse. So that's really where the Fiend's weakness kind of is. It can't be Alexa Bliss because Alexa Bliss is corrupted by the Fiend. So any weakness that she shows, any vulnerability that she shows, is because the Fiend wants her to be vulnerable. They want Randy Orton to think that she's the weakness because that's the trap. The trap is, hell, she's just another agent of the Fiend. And what I love about this particularly, I thought this was really good, is that on the set of A Moment of Bliss was a little doll in a cage. A lot of people was like, well, what's that doll on the cage? And I was like, it's like a little doll. But then when you think about it, you're like, what is this representing, this doll in this cage? Could it be representing the real Alexa Bliss? That now, the Alexa Bliss as we've always known her before she got fiendized or whatever, is trapped inside of the now Fiend Alexa Bliss, the corrupted Alexa Bliss. That could be one thing. Could it also be a little thing into the future where, maybe they do a Shark Tank with Alexa Bliss inside of it and, she's dangling over the ring or something like that. They used to do those matches in the old wrestling territories where they always put the managers or whatever in the Shark Tank or whatever. That would be interesting too. Or could it be like a prelude to maybe Randy Orton is going to take away Alexa Bliss? That he's probably going to kidnap her or something to that effect. Well, that could also be interesting. And I'll be all the way down for that. I would be all the way down for just about any iteration of this, but I really just kind of want Randy Orton to burn down the Funhouse. Like, that's what I want. It's for Randy Orton to just set fire to the Funhouse. Because if you do that, then I can really be able to analyze and look at what's going on with this character. Because the Fiend is entirely too strong, if we're being honest. It's like, in some cases, in some ways, it's like Kane in '97. Because Kane got pinned by Stone Cold Steve Austin in 1998. And he got pinned by Undertaker. So, he wasn't completely invincible. But Kane was mostly invincible through 97 and 98. He was hitting people with wrenches. He was beating the hell out of everybody. And when you have a character that's that strong, that's a little too strong. Because he basically operates in a completely different universe. And Randy Orton is kind of stepping into the Fiend's universe. Now, I don't really want Fiend Orton at TLC because it's too big of a match, I think, for that show. It would draw the hell out of the show, if we're being honest. It'd probably be in the main event. And it should be. Because the star power involved is massive. But I think it's too big of a match for that show. I think that they should push it back to the Royal Rumble and let that be one of the matches, one of the main events along with the Royal Rumble matches. But they're probably going to blow their load because, this WWE and they do stuff like that. Also, Randy Orton should not win a single match in this feud. Not one. Not by disqualification, not by count out, not by anything. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't even have matches with rules. Their first match should just be like no disqualification. Because it just doesn't make any sense. They have too much history. And then what is he going to do? He going to Ronnie Garvin stomp the Fiend? Come on, man. Get the fuck out of here with that. It's just not going to, that doesn't make sense. But I don't believe that Alexa Bliss is going to be the Fiend's weakness. I believe it's going to be something deeper than that. I think this is a trap. They're trying to trap Randy Orton. Rightfully so, because Randy Orton is a jerk. He burned down the cabin. He's a traitor. He's got to get that comeuppance, dog. And I really would have waited. I wish they could wait for this match, so there could be a crowd. The last time they had a crowd, when they had Orton and Fiend, they kind of poo-poo, well, not Fiend, but Orton and Wyatt. People shit on it. People shit on that whole entire feud, by the way. And since this video was going to be under 10 minutes until I started talking, let's talk about that previous Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton feud. Because it was not good. You know, like it was not good. And they were doing a lot of the supernatural stuff. They did the whole cabin match, I believe they had, and then they did the WrestleMania stuff. That WrestleMania stuff was really bad. That WrestleMania stuff was bad. Now the cinematic cabin match was okay. I didn't like how I think they showed it in pieces, so it was like part 1, then part 2 later. I didn't care for that. But that WrestleMania thing where they had like the worms and stuff in the ring, that was not good. If they can avoid stuff like that and do like some actual good horror stuff, this would be a great feud. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys later.